because of all the wonderful people that God put into his life. And that's all of you. So thank you so much for being here. The family and I are so happy to see you. And I hope you can get out of here at the end of the day. Thank you for coming.
Hello. Hi, my name's Trevor. I'm Denny's son. Thank you for being here. It's my bodyguard, Mike McAustin. Seems we kind of picked the most remote place to have this sent off for my dad. Yet look at all the people that are here today. It's a testament to the man that he was, and also to you guys as well. Look around at this crowd. As much as he disliked being the center of attention, I think he would be rather proud of the group that's assembled here today. So thanks for being part of this. Many of you guys knew my dad in different capacities. And to some of you guys, he was family, a childhood friend, a high school friend, college buddy, IOTAs, a football or other sport teammate, a fellow firefighter, a golfing buddy, a supporter of all things AGHS Eagles. He was scared of cows. He was granddad to Trey, Declan, and Colin. He was the guy that picked them up from Ocean View on Thursdays and Fridays. He was a person you really enjoyed being around. Halfway there. All right. We're good? No snipers or anything? Okay, good. I know, me too. We knew my dad by many different names. Dennis Lee Kowalk, Dennis Lee Coville, Dennis, Denny, Den, Coville, Corville, Danny Cokill, Mr. Coville, Coach Coville, Captain Coville, Cap Den, Cap, Lugerhead for the 98s guys here, and my favorites. Baby C, Uncle Denny, Cappy, Dad, Babe, Papa Denny, and of course, your skipper and guide for as far as we can get. Yeah, Walt Disney thought it was a good idea to hire my dad in 1969 to do the Jungle Cruise. Okay, so that's who we're honoring today. Here's the rules for the day. We only shed tears of joy. As my dad got older, he got a little bit sappy, and he would only, those tears that he cried, they were never out of sadness. It was always out of joy and pride about you guys, about his family, and just how lucky he was. He would cry about that because he was so happy. Other rule, don't be afraid to hug or kiss somebody. That was kind of his deal. He really excelled at letting people know how grateful he was, and he was very grateful for all of you. So follow his lead today and give somebody a hug or a kiss. Even if you don't know him, just go for it. Doesn't matter. Thank you, guys. Next up is my cousin Danny to do the Lord's Prayer. Thanks, Mike.
So Aunt Sue asked me to share the Lord's Prayer with us, so let's take this time to pray the prayer Jesus taught us to pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. You should have that written down. My brain just popped on it, but I did want to share just broadly Uncle Denny, the joy, and I was thinking of that prayer, and give us this day our daily bread, and that our Father is in heaven. And Uncle Denny had a joy. It's an absolute. If you were around him, you knew what a joy and what a laughter. Boy, you laughed when Uncle Denny was around, and he lit up a room. And so I think he shared the joy of the Lord with all of us. I was also thinking about just being forgiven and the forgiveness that he gave, and I think that came out in his life. I think for somebody that potentially had a pretty rough start, that the joy and the forgiveness that he shared and the life that he shared, that he was absolutely a man that loved his wife, and that was evident. There was no doubt that he was a man that loved his son, that sacrificed his life to be with his son, to be with his son's family, and to be grandfather to the three boys. And that was so evident to see and to be around. And I just think that's just such a joy that he took the beginning of his life and he transformed it, that was not going to be the legacy he left. And he left an amazing legacy. Again, his wife, his son, his daughter-in-law, and his three grandkids. And to the rest of us, whether it was family or friends or coworkers, what a joy he left. So we celebrate that. We celebrate what the Lord gave us this amazing man, and we were all blessed to have him with us, and to share a few stories, and have my brother come on up and share some fun stories about the life that we got to see lived out in front of us. Jim, come on up.
So, first, just a little bit about his life. Denny Lee Kowalk was born on April 6, 1946, in East Lansing, Michigan. He lived his first 10 years kind of in various places in Michigan. And when his parents split at around 6 years old, his mom ended up having to go back to work, and he spent quite a bit of time on his own, playing at the parks, hanging out. But interestingly enough, here's this kid who's 6 to 10 years old who would go to the local fire station and hang out with the guys. So clearly planting the seed of what he wanted to become as a future fireman. He knew exactly what he wanted, and he knew what he wanted to be from an early age. In 1956, his mom, Sigrid, married Floyd Coville. And lucky enough, as they moved to Northridge, California from Michigan. Nothing against Michigan. He lived with Floyd for about 6 years, and at 1962, Floyd adopted him officially, and he became Denny Lee Coville. To the surprise of all of his buddies, because he was 16 and kind of cool, that he was all of a sudden he was Denny Coville, not Kowalk. He always found that sports were very important to him. Football, baseball were kind of his choices. So he played Pop Warner, he played at Cleveland High School, he played obviously at Whittier College, and then he moved on to play even a little bit of flag football as an old man, which is not recommended. During high school, he made some great friends. One of them was Mark Reed, who happened to be the star quarterback, and Denny was the star receiver. So there was a number of times where the announcer would say, "Reed to Coville, touchdown." They'd walk around campus, kind of like two peas in a pod. Like, that's right, we bad. They were kind of like, they were the guys at the school. But even being, he was popular, he was funny, he was good looking, but he was also a bit of a jokester and a character. And my mom, who was in his class at Cleveland High School, was also the principal, Mr. Roberts, kind of like secretary on certain days. And there was a stretch of time where Denny would get in trouble. Well, back then, you would come see the principal, and besides getting a lecture, you would get a swat. And the paddle, to make sure that you could swing it really hard and be accurate, had holes in it. So he'd come in, my mom said he'd be smiling from ear to ear, walking in. She'd say, "Hello, Denny." She'd say, "Hey, Julie, how you doing?" He'd go in. She could hear Mr. Roberts, "Coville this," and "Jesus, hold Coville," and "Come on, Coville, get your stuff together." And all of a sudden, whack! She'd hear the splat. Open the door, he's smiling again. Walks out, big smiles, like nothing happened. So one time she pops off, "All right, Coville, I'll see you next week." Kind of turns around and says, "You can count on it." So he graduates 1964, and in that summer, he made a fateful call to my Aunt Sue, who picks up the phone and she says, "Hi, I'm Denny Coville. You don't know me, but I want to meet you." And she's like, "Who is this guy? First off, I don't know who Denny Coville is, and he sure does, think a lot of himself." So she hangs up, they make a date, and she goes to her sister who's in his class and says, "Who's Denny Coville?" First words out of my mom's mouth, "Oh no, not Coville. Can't date Coville." She ignores the advice, and they go on a date. According to Aunt Sue from the first date, they were two peas in a pod. Everything was easy. He made her obviously laugh. They could go do anything, and they just were comfortable and just always had a great time together. After high school, Denny went to Whittier and continued to play football. After graduating Whittier in 1970, he went to work for the forestry, the division of forestry in Orange County. In 1971, 7 years later, he married Sue Adams, who became Sue Coville, his girlfriend for a full 7 years. In 1972, Denny was hired by the LA Fire Department, absolutely his dream job. There was nothing about being a fireman he didn't love. He loved hanging with the guys. He loved doing mess hall with the guys. He loved playing handball with the guys on Barham. He just loved being there. And Aunt Sue said occasionally it was nice that he would have a long stretch of a shift, because then she'd get a break from him. He was there for 30 years. He became a TFC-2 captain, which is TFC-2. One of the firemen will know what that means, but he was a captain too, and he was there for 30 and loved every second of it. Once again, he made great friends. I'm sure some of them are here, and there was nothing he wanted to be other than a fireman his entire life. In 1975, Uncle Denny became a dad when his son Trevor was born on September 3rd. He made a point from the very beginning to let Trevor know how much he loved him. He was there at every event. He was there at every, soccer game. He was there at every little school play. He was there, obviously, at every single football game. He also came to most of our football games, both my brother and I, Danny. He was always there. And when he came to games, he kind of had a program. His place was the top far right of the stadium, as far away from the other parents that you could possibly get. He couldn't stand listening to them talk. He had a bag of sunflower seeds. He'd stand way up in the corner, and he wouldn't say a word. He'd just eat his sunflower seeds and watch the game and enjoy watching his kids, nephews, or now his grandkids play. When Trevor went to Cal Poly SLO, Aunt Sue and Uncle Denny went up and visited often. They were there all the time. And they talked about, wow, this is a pretty nice place. Maybe we'll retire here. In 2001, when Uncle Denny retired, they moved to Arroyo Grande on the 10th fairway of Cypress Ridge. It's the best move they ever made. Aunt Sue and Uncle Denny, from the time they got here, were blessed to see their son become a teacher. They were blessed to see their son become a coach and a love figure at the high school. More importantly, they were blessed to watch their son fall in love with Stephanie. That was extremely connecting to them for the rest of their lives. Uncle Denny knew Steph was the gal as soon as he saw her. How can you not? She's tall, gorgeous, and smart. But what really sealed the deal was that she had a better golf swing than all of us. That was it. She's the one, Trev. Don't let her get away. The one thing about Uncle Denny when he moved up here is he was a hack of a golfer before he got here. He was awful. A couple of shoulder surgeries later, he's an ace golfer. He's marshalling all over the place. And I don't know how he did this, but he hit 3 holes in 1, which is unprecedented for anybody who plays golf. Most will have 0 their entire life, and he had 3. Trev and Steph married in 2011, which was very similar to the barn that we're here at today. The only difference was that Uncle Denny made sure that there was a train that we all got to ride and cruise around the outside of the venue, which was pretty spectacular. 2 years later, he officially became Papa Denny. When Trey was born. For nearly 3 years after that, Callan and Declan were born. And this is no joke. There was not a happier, more satisfied and loving man who ever felt like he was the luckiest person on this entire world when he's the father of 3 grandsons, a son, a daughter-in-law that he loves dearly, being next to his wife at his side and his best friend. Just before Uncle Denny went to have his surgery, they had a family dinner, and he was with his grandsons, his son, and his wife. There was no place else in this world that he would have rather been that day. And it circled and completed what almost to the day, 60 years ago, when he called and said, "Hi, you don't know me, but I'm Denny Coatville, and I want to meet you." That fateful day 60 years ago became the best thing that he ever did. He created a legacy and a family and a lifestyle that he would have never imagined that it could have been so sweet. There were times that he said, "Jimmy, I'm so blessed. I can't even believe this is my life. I couldn't be happier." He left us on May 3rd with Aunt Sue by his side, peacefully, and we miss him dearly, and we will love you forever. We miss you.
Hello. The things I'll miss. Golf cart rides and hitting a million golf balls. Trips to Tom's Toys and Dick's Sporting Goods. Laying in bed together. Alright. It's really yoga after a long day at school. Laying in bed together, talking about everything and watching Seinfeld. Waiting in the Wells Fargo drive-thru to order Happy Meals. Hearing you tell me, "Nice job, Treyman," after all my games. I love you, Papa Denny. That's it.
Trey, will you fix this for me? I got it. Got a couple ways to describe my buddy Denny. Loyal, irreverent. And how many of you people can say you have relationships, active relationships, with your friends that you made 56 years ago in 1968? I can, we can. The Iotas were brought up. That's where the Iotas were born in Whittier College with Tom Reed, who's here today, and Dave Broomhead, who's here today, and Steve Coleflesh, and Ernie Omri, and Dave Newell. Unfortunately couldn't be here, but the Iotas were an irreverent group, and Denny led the charge. Denny could find humor in just about any situation, anything. And he never wanted to make things more important than they really were. He did have definitely had his serious side when he talked about Sue, wanted to be a fireman, Trevor, Steph, and his 3 awesome grandsons, Trey and Deck and Cal. Couple remembrances. Denny could make everyone laugh. We'd have meals together at Whittier College, a place called the Campus Inn. And it was family style dining, and you'd sit down there and the cute little co-ed would bring you water, milk, whatever you wanted to drink. And they'd serve bowls, platters of food. And I had many cases of indigestion having meal with Denny because I had to chew so fast and swallow, partially chewed food, swallow quick because I didn't want to have anything in my mouth when he said something funny. And he did many times because it'd spew out there and ruin the whole dinner. But when he exhibited his humor, everyone got a chuckle out of it. And Denny could be on the outrageous side on occasion, and every now and then we'd actually study when we were in college. We'd meet at the library, and after about 30 minutes, we'd say, we put in enough time. We need a study break. Let's go to Shakey's Pizza. I don't know if they still have Shakey's. Let's go to Shakey's Pizza and have a pitcher of beer. And it was never one pitcher. It was always a couple. But one night we invited a couple cute co-eds to go with us. There were 5 of us. We went down to Shakey's. We're in my Volkswagen Bug that barely ran, and we had a good time. Dropped Denny off at College Hall where he lived in those days before we were roommates, and had to go up and make a U-turn, and made that U-turn, came back around with my buddy Steve Coleflesh and the two young ladies in the car, and as the lights swung around from making that U-turn, there was Denny in the middle of the road, and he just wanted to say goodnight with his jeans around his ankles and looking between his legs. We did graduate, to amazement of a lot of people. We did graduate in the spring of '70, from Whittier College. Whittier's a quiet little conservative Quaker school. The time that I was there, I never met a Quaker, but it's a Quaker school. It was Nixon's alma mater. Richard Nixon was elected while we were there in '68. Named after John Greenleaf Whittier, who was a poet. And then, fortunately, that was the name of our mascot. We were the poets, the Whittier Poets. We still shake our head. And I don't know if any of you guys are Jeopardy aficionados, but I watch it all the time. And Whittier College was the name of was a question on Jeopardy about a month ago. I got it right. But said we did graduate, and on a Saturday afternoon in early June of 1970, Frank Borman, the astronaut who had been around the moon on Christmas Eve, gave our graduation address, gave a very impressive speech. We were all dressed up in cap and gown. It's a beautiful day like this. We were in the amphitheater there at Whittier College, and they start to call everybody's name. And Dave Broomhead, fellow teammate, friend, Iota, Steve Coleflesh, Dennis Lee Colville. Denny came up, got his diploma, shook hands with Colonel Borman, shook hands with Paul Smith, the president of the university, shook hands with a couple deans, walked down, and this is a conservative little college now, walked down, took off his mortarboard, and put on a Miller High Life hat. And we were all going to dinner afterwards. Denny's parents, my parents, Steve Coleflesh's parents, and Floyd was very upset. Floyd was a little taken back, and he had his serious side. He didn't talk to Denny the whole dinner. But Trev, that's for you. And I'm going to honor my friend. And you 3 boys, when you graduate, send me an announcement, okay? Because I'm going to send you a Miller High Life hat. Tribute to your grandpa. Denny and I were in classes and said, tell people he was a teammate, a roommate, friend and a classmate. We were both business majors. Neither one of us were considered to be in the running for valedictorian. We were in that business school. We had a tough time in a couple required math classes, and quantitative methods and statistical analysis were not up our alley. It was a good class. We had a great professor, but there was a guy in the class who we befriended because he was a much better student than we are, and as we approached midterms and finals, Denny and I would bribe him with Coors. This is even before Coors Light days. We'd bribe him with Coors, and so he would tutor us, and we could cram a little bit before the finals, and then if you gave him another six-pack of Coors, he'd sit right in front of us in the auditorium-style seating, so we could maybe check out how he was doing on his test. But Denny was an outstanding wide receiver. He was Steve Largent before Steve Largent, and for the younger people, that maybe equated to Wes Wilker. He was that kind of guy. He's deceptively fast. He was really quick in and out of his breaks. He ran disciplined routes. Quarterback could always count on Denny being where he was supposed to be. The right spot, the right depth, count on him being open and count on him catching the football. And Denny had a great start to his senior year, 69 season, and we had a real balanced attack. We had Steve Colflesh on one side, we had Dave Broomhead and Lionel Pointer running the ball, we had Denny on the other side. So we were balanced on offense, and Denny was having a fine season. And unfortunately, against UC Santa Barbara, Denny jumped up to catch the ball, and the DB caught him kind of in midair, drove him to the turf, and really destroyed his shoulder. And he had to have surgery, screw it all back together. That ended the season. Unfortunately, ended his football career at Whittier. And I got a good view of it because the guy I was supposed to be blocking got by me, and I could see the play downfield. But none of us were drafted or invited to NFL camps. We had a couple of guys, but we weren't in the running for that either. It's a new chapter in Denny's life, and the season is over. You know, we all look forward to graduation. Everyone, Denny, what are you going to do after graduation? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? You know, people knew he's a business major. He says, I'm going to be a fireman. And, oh, Denny, you're so funny. What are you going to do? No, I'm going to be a fireman. And the week after the Miller hat and graduation incident, Denny started with Jimmy said, Danny said the Orange County Forestry Fire Department. It was a big station down in Santa Ana, and they had a lot of grass fires. They had a lot of action. I stopped in the station one time. Then he gave me the tour, showed me all around. He was very proud, and he was a good roomie. We were roommates for a semester. The semester we graduated, and he was gone a lot on weekends because he was back in the valley seeing Sue, spending time with his bride-to-be. And he decided he wanted to move to LA City. I know that's where his goal was when he graduated. And he did. He got up to the LA City Fire Department. It didn't take long for the people there to recognize Denny's work ethic, his intelligence, his attention to detail, his leadership skills. People wanted to be around Denny. He became the youngest captain in LA Fire Department history. Hopefully that record still stands. He obviously did a great job, and they wanted to move him into administration. And so he gave it a shot. He had to put on a white shirt and a tie, go to an office, sit through meetings, and after a short time of that, he said, "No thanks. I want to get back with my guys, my team at the station." And where he did, and he became a legendary captain. As we get older, changes happen. not just physical changes, but everybody gets married once or twice like me, sometimes even more. Jobs, relocation, families, all that stuff, and the close-knit group at Whittier College started spreading out all over the country. And Denny and Sue always reached out, called all the time, cards, pics. Denny was very loyal to his friends and the people he loved. It was ironic. Yesterday, Coach Trev alerted me that they were having a passing scrimmage at the Rio Grande campus. And I flew in yesterday. I drove up, stopped by the campus. I timed it so I got there and went back to watch some of these guys play football in shorts. You do in the summertime, and on the back of the T-shirts for a lot of the players was the word loyal, big capital letters. So made me proud. Denny's son is passing along Denny's qualities, his and Sue's qualities, passing those along to his young players and another generation. Denny, I miss you. Thanks for being a friend. I love you. And down the road, we'll get in the Blue Max and we'll ride again.
I'm Brick Durley, and what a great tribute for Denny. This is awesome. I first met Denny when we were in junior high school. We were on the same Pop Warner football team, the Reseda Rams, as was John Huss and Mark Reed. In fact, Mark's dad was the head coach. And then in 1964, Denny and I both ended up at Pierce College, go to school, play football, maybe not necessarily in that order. But, Russ touched on this at Whittier. Denny at Pierce, this guy was, basically he was a stud. He was an excellent wide receiver, defensive back. He could run, he had great hands, he could hit. And for the active coaches in the crowd and you retired coaches, he's exactly the type of guy that you wanted on your football team, because he could flat out play. Well, after the 2 years that we played at Pierce, Denny and I had become good friends, which eventually turned into a great friendship that lasted 60 years. And like all of you, I thought a lot about Denny in the last month or so. And, the guy was just a great guy. He's just a great guy. He was so sincere. He had so much integrity in what Russ touched on. He was so loyal. And if you were a friend of his, he cared about you and he let you know it, And I had the honor to be Denny's best man when he and Sue got married in 1971, and that was a great day. And I'm going to keep this short because I'll probably lose it in a second. Thinking about memories that started when you're 18 till I'm 78. Denny was 78 when he passed. It's 60 years of memories, great memories. God, we had so much fun, great times, and which Russ said, a lot of laughter, tremendous amount of laughter. And I just want to say, I cherish the friendship that I had with him. I love the guy. And I'm really gonna miss him. Thank you. John Huss.
I'm gonna tell the truth about Denny. My name is Jim Clark. I work with Denny and been friends with Denny for probably 30 years. I first met Denny about 1993 at Fire Station 98, and he's the guy. I got to read something from Greg Stone that wrote something for Sue and Denny. He couldn't be here because he's up in Idaho right now, but Greg kind of recruited me as a fireman to come to Fire Station 98 in Pacoima, and I'm sitting down. It was called lineup, 8 o'clock in the morning, and Denny is going off. He wants to kill everybody. and later back, got on the rig on a run, and I told Greg, I said, "What the hell did you do to me? Who is this guy?" But soon after that, we golfed together, friends with Sue and all Denny's other friends, Murph and Gary Peck and all the guys from Newbury Park, and it was a pretty good hoot for a long time. And I later had the opportunity to promote. Denny helped me with that, and so I'll say a few more things, but later on. But I'm going to read this from Greg Stone, directly to Sue and Trevor. Sue, Trevor, and family, it is with a heavy heart that I'm sharing this tribute to your beloved husband, dad, and grandpa. Denny and I first worked together at Fire Station 29 in the early 80s. Although we were on opposite shifts, we had the opportunity to work together numerous times. I always took comfort in working with him because he was such a man of principles. He stood strong on his ideals and never wavered from doing the right thing. So in 1990, when he called me and invited me to work with him at Fire Station 98, I was honored because I always held him in such high esteem. But secretly, I was a little nervous about working with him because I wasn't sure I could live up to his expectations. Of course, I accepted his invitation, which ultimately led to some of the best times of my career. We instantly bonded and shared a great time together with a group of guys that made coming to work fun. He encouraged me to further my career by taking the next promotional exam, which I did, but I must confess I put zero effort into it because I was enjoying working with Denny and the crew at 98s so much and really was in no hurry to move on. When it was time for me to move on, I did so much more prepared for the next step, largely because of the example that Denny set for me. Over the years we worked together, our friendship developed into a more personal friendship than just a professional friend. That's what he wrote. In some ways, Denny was an introvert and didn't often share experiences in his personal life. But as we became closer, it became more obvious to me that his family was the most important to him. To Sue, I can't tell you how many times he would say, "Sue is the one that holds our family together." He was quick to give you credit for running the household and being the constant level head in the relationship. I believe that. To Trevor, in your younger years, your dad was always sharing your accomplishments with us at work. He always made it a point to plan his work schedule around your activities so he could be there for you. He is one proud papa. So after his retirement and move up to the Central Coast, he always said he was living the good life. It was so good that it was hard to get him to leave the Mesa. He was free to play golf in his backyard, and more importantly, he was able to be part of Trevor's life. And when Stephanie became part of the family, and soon after 3 grandkids came along, he was gushing with pride. The circle of life was complete. Our visits were filled with conversations that caught us up to date on all the things going on with Trevor and Stephanie's lives, and how he so enjoyed being able to be part of the grandkids' lives. In the early years of knowing Denny at work, I would have described him as having a hard shell. He was assertive when he needed to be, he was an independent thinker, and he was a strong leader. But over the years, I came to know him as a big softy who cared deeply for his family and friends. And I'll attest to that. Man hugs became a standard greeting when meeting up with him. And in later years, our goodbyes included a big hug and follow up with a "I love you." That's when I realized he truly had become a big softie. It's often said that when you lose a friend or loved one, you still have the memories that you shared together. And that is so true. I'll forever hold on to those memories and knowing he's smiling down on us. It's from Greg Stone. And if you didn't notice, Denny's first car is right there. The kids are sitting on it right now. There might be an empty can of Keystone Light in there too. I don't know. So this is a story, another fire station story. I've just got a couple of them left. So at lineup, that was Denny's deal. And you wanted to eat or whatever you wanted to do before that, you did it. But at 8 o'clock in the morning, it was lineup, you're in your uniform, and you're ready to go to work. Well, one morning, a guy named Pat Brewster, he'd probably eaten some leftover cold spaghetti or something. And every time Denny would talk, Pat would do this and hit the bowl of empty spaghetti, the empty spaghetti bowl. So Denny's listened to this for about 5 minutes, and he said, "That's it, Brewster, front office." So he marches down to the front captain's office, and the rest of us, 14 of us, we run into the chief's office, which is right next door. We've got our ears to the wall. And all he could hear was Pat Brewster telling Denny, "I sure liked you when you were an engineer at 14s. I liked you better." And then I got on Denny's side real quick. All you had to do was sit and watch Trevor's game films. That was it. You're done. No housework, no nothing. But I always made Sue, I don't know if you remember that, the Clark family chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah, CFC. And he always thought I did it for him, but I did it so I could play handball because it was easy to make. So anyway, sorry, Denny. Anyway, I love Denny, love the Colville family. He meant a lot to me, taught me a lot. And anyway, thank you very much for being here. This is awesome.
50 years ago, I should have gone out of bounds on the run. I'd be walking a lot better. Thanks. I knew the guy too. It was too bad. My name is John Huss. Denny and I knew each other for 64 years. We played Pop Warner football for the Reseda Rams. It was brought up a little bit earlier. Actually, I think he played for a team in Canoga Park, and they really were not very well coached and not very good. And Denny showed up for the Reseda Rams tryout and made the team. It was hard for him to do that because the team had been together for 1 year, and he had to beat somebody out. There were only 36 spots, I think, that were available, and he had to compete and win a spot from someone who had played the year before. This is some of the places, like if you played in our program, you know what a reindeer is, and this is where we learned reindeer as we thinned out the crop. I have a couple of stories. One is that we had a great rivalry with a school called Baldwin Hills, very, very good football program. And they came there and to play us for a championship game in Reseda Park. And Denny always would come in on short yardage plays because he's a very good blocker. He'd come in at the wing spot, and we ran a first down play, a off power behind his blocking. But you have to understand, here we are in Reseda Park, a pretty good crowd for a Pop Warner game. And we break the huddle, get to the line of scrimmage and line up, and all of a sudden Denny goes, "Block!" We blocked. Got the first down and went on and win the championship. Another story that I have is that we played in Vegas. We had a really good coaching staff. We had a guy named Don Upham who played for Navy as a quarterback, and then two Reeds were uncles or brothers, and then one other man. But we went to Vegas to play, and Denny, well, he liked to explore. And when we got to the place where the game was going to be held, it was understand this is Korea is just about over, but you know there's still a lot of military, and so the game was at a military base, and they had a Quonset hut there. I'm looking at the barn behind me, remembering it, and we got there before the game and went inside and explored around. Well, Denny was fearless, we know that, and we saw that there was a platform at the top that they would use to film what was going on below. It had that steel grate in it, and you could climb up, and then there was a ladder that went between it. So, again, Denny was curious, and we went walking up there, and we went to the platform, climbed up, moved the trap door out of the way, and then got inside. Well, Denny got up and did not know that one of the guys had left the door open, so he stepped back, and he fell through, and as he was going by, he had enough presence of mind to put his elbows out and catch himself from falling that distance. So that's something I just remember, boy, that would have been a tragedy for them at that time. It's all right. Is that? You need that? No, I'm going to talk about signals and stuff like that. Right. So, you know, we used Denny to give signals to come in, to signal the plays. Like I say, he would give out the formation and the signal, and then we would take the play and execute it based on what we saw. And he helped us greatly on that one. Well, I missed it. All right. Oh, yeah, that's our Eagles, not the present Eagles. They wouldn't mess up like that like we did. Yeah, no. We relied upon him to fill voids for us on the staff. One would be making signals for the play, as we talked about, or camera work, or something that we could get out of him as a gift. And we did this frequently. He gave us signal. I'm trying to think how to explain this. When you're on the sideline, we signal plays in, and he was the one who did that. To keep accurate for the signaling of the plays in, he drew stick figures for every single call and every motion that was required. So if you said green, zap, 42 mouse, tiger, he would have a signal for that. And he put it down, he looked on, he drilled on this so that he was prepared. All right, so I'm kind of messing up here. Oh,
There we go.
well, sorry. I didn't think about that. Anyway, thank you. I'm not doing well.
Okay, so I think that's the last speaker.
I believe it is.
So again, thank you for all coming. We, the family and I are so thankful that you're here. And please go and get a drink and something to eat, and we'll come and talk to you.
one other thing as well. We're gonna have an iPad back there underneath that pop-up. If you guys want to share any memories or anything of that nature, there'll be a kid with the iPad. He's gonna ask you a couple questions. It'd be really cool. The twins are only 8, and it'd be cool to have memories of their other Papa Denny for you guys. So if you want to do that, please do so. All right, and yeah, have a bunch of drinks and well, not too many, but and a bunch of food, and let's have a party, guys.
Trevor.
Thank you.
Trevor, cheers.
I didn't know Denny very well personally, but his son Trevor impacted my life greatly. He wrote a letter when I was a senior in high school, recommendation, telling me how proud of me he was and how much I reminded him of his dad and the men who raised him, and that'll always be with him.
Hi, we're Barb and Alex Lambertson, and we had the honor of living across the street from Denny and Sue for how many years?
For about 8 years at the top of Tatler. We were part of the group they call the Top of Tatler.
The Top of Tatler, and they had wonderful Christmas parties that they included us in, and we got to know them both very well, and I personally got to know the Denny that I heard about today, because I know that there was this exterior gruff, but then there was this sweet, sweet, loving man who loved his family and talked a lot about his son and his grandsons, and of course his beautiful Sue. And we're just grateful to be here, and it was an honor to be in the neighborhood and to know Denny.
Yep, and I would, I'm sorry,
Oh, yeah.
second that, especially the part about his tough fireman exterior, but he was a big softie. He would cry at the drop of a hat when you talked about, especially about his kids and grandkids. I also had the privilege of golfing with Denny a lot. We lived right across the street, he was right by the first hole at the time, and we had a little group of guys that would golf 2 or 3 times a week, and so I had a lot of golf rounds with Denny. Always had a good time, and it's hard to believe he's not here, but we love him, we miss him, and we're privileged to be invited to this event. Thank you.
Yes, and we love you, Sue, and of course we don't want to forget Stephanie. Stephanie was a big part of the family, so thank you for letting us do this.
Yeah, thank you.
Love you all.
Bye.
All right, so Mr. C, Mr. Colville, was kind of like a second dad to me growing up. I remember the Bass Trip Lakes. I remember him getting Grandma up on skis. I remember me charging the hill on the skateboard and falling, and Mr. Colville saying, "Don't worry about this one sting," and pouring iodine all over it and screaming like a maniac. Someone who I'll never ever forget. A coach, again, like I said, like a father figure, someone that was larger than life. The time I got recognized at my old college and Mr. and Mrs. Colville showed up, I will never forget that. Just the kind of person he is. They go out of their way to show love, and Mr. Colville was one of the ones that made that okay. To say I love you, give you a kiss, and I'm just so blessed to have met him, and gonna miss him. Love you.
All right, well, Coville boys and Trev, you can watch this too. This is a memory of when I first met Denny. I was living with your father in Shell Beach, and we were having a party on like a Saturday night, like a college party with a bunch of beer and whatnot. And Trev tells me that his dad and mom are going to be coming by, and I was a little taken back, thinking, okay, is that cool? Like we're going to be drinking beer and getting kind of crazy, and your folks are coming. And then Denny and Sue roll in, and they couldn't be cooler. Just, you know, he always was so welcoming to me. He'd just be like, "Hey, Ev, what's new?" And we would just chat about whatever. And you know, it's and just kind of, you know, I didn't have a great relationship with my dad, but seeing Denny and Trev's relationship, I thought was just so incredibly special and loving and supportive. And seeing, you know, how Trev's raising you boys, it gives me hope in kind of the next generation of just you know, that there can be positive male role models, and I love you boys, and Trev and Steph, I love you guys, and yeah, Denny was a great man, and his legacy lives on through you guys, and that's really special for me to be the part of it that I got to see. So love you guys. Cheers.